I will now move on to introduce our special guest for the evening, one of the heavyweights in publishing, Piers Russell Cobb. Piers has worked in publishing his whole career. He started at Chateau Bodley Head and Cape in the 1970s. He moved then via the US to be a copywriter and associate editor at a book packager. After that, and for the next 8 years, he became international marketing manager at the book publisher Thames Hudson. In 1987, Piers was headhunted to become marketing director of Heinemann Books, where he sat on the publishing committee. He's been involved for many years with Arcadia Books, taking over publishing in 2014. So over to you, Piers.
Please, thank you very much indeed. I hope you're all safe and well. It's terrific for me as a publisher to be among you writers, because you are the chroniclers and storytellers and wordsmiths of our time, who translate the fact and fictions of individual experience into that which can be universally experienced in all languages. And isn't it an interesting fact that what we must all admit is the most challenging time? It's not only television viewing, people have gorged themselves on Netflix, but the reader is back with a vengeance, with a 15% year-on-year growth in lockdown. And I think I've just thought it'd be quite interesting. Earlier this evening, I just checked the bestseller list, and to find that actually it's rather sort of charming and escapist. It leads with The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and Horse by Charlie Mackesy. Goes on to The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. And then there's Crime with Michael Connolly, Springtime Affair by Kate Ford, and Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Sentimental novels, like the ones in the bestseller list, rely on emotional experiences and feature scenes of distress and tenderness, and the plot is arranged to advance emotions rather than action. The result is a kind of valorization of fine feeling, displaying characters as models of refined, sensitive emotional effect. The ability to display such feelings was thought at the time to show character and experience and to help shape positive social life and values and relationships. Every morning I walk in the park. I live in North London, and I walk past an academy where daubed on the walls is the slogan, "No one remembers what you said, no one remembers what you did, but everyone will remember the way you made them feel." And feeling is what writers generate in their readers. The readers can react to what is written with all sorts of enjoyment and sometimes judgments like, is this well written? Do I know who's speaking? Do they speak to me? But great writing creates a kind of long surf ride where the reader gets carried along, skimming along an ocean of words. When exotic works of Middle Eastern fiction first appeared, like the Book of 1001 Nights, when it came into the European market in the early 18th century, I think, it gave insight into the Islamic culture. And there must have been such an excitement to be taken to other worlds. And that's kind of what I think a lot of writing does. It takes you to other worlds. And I suppose one of the questions that inevitably comes out of the brief is, what you're reading, is it literature? Well, I suppose parents are so happy when their children read anything that almost anything is counted as literature. I grew up in a house full of books, 35,000 of them, and their covers became friends, like the sort of people you saw at large parties, recognized but didn't know. And when you brought them from the shelves and read them, they became the dearest of acquaintances, when even decades after a first association, you can, like the oldest friends, go back with memories as if no time had passed at all. We all have memories made from our milestone books. The stories were pure escapism, those that helped us understand a situation, a person, or just added a level of sympathy to human understanding, helping us appreciate how other people think and react to what is being said. At certain times, the reading stirs memories, senses of injustice, senses of justice, and you just have to hold on to the narrative thread. Don't let go, or you'll miss the nuance and come back into the conversation halfway. And I suppose the thing that occurred to me is that the strange thing about lockdown is that now everyone knows what it's like to live like a writer. Who but the most determined would choose to be a writer in a solitary world? People have found lockdown so difficult. Every day, a flickering screen, blank page with only you and your thoughts, and the words struggling to organize themselves inside your head to tell the story. And as a writer, when you finish, you face the judgment of an agent, a publisher, and eventually the critic and the public at large. It doesn't sound like a great job, does it? Anyway, the reason why there are readers for a writer's work is because you are better at telling the story. The characterization which ring true, the descriptions of intimate human experiences. And in the end, the books that stay in our minds forever are like our oldest friends, the ones that make us feel good on whatever way that is expressed. Thank you very much. As I've said, it's a great pleasure to be a publisher among the writers, and I now hand back to Denise for the real artists and the creators to tell us their stories.
Thank you, Piers. What a wonderful introduction. I could almost picture you pulling the books off the shelf there, and I'm incredibly envious because I grew up in a home with very few books. However, on Saturday mornings, a big truck arrived in our village, and my father marched me down there. The doors opened, and I was in a wonderland of a mobile library, ready to take out my 4 books for the week, and they were familiar friends. But on that note, I'm now going to hand over to Zahid. Zahid Hussain is the chairperson of Manchester City of Literature. He's a novelist. He wrote The Curry Mile, a screenwriter, and a writing mentor. In 2009, he co-founded the Manchester Muslim Writers. In 2017, he helped organize Manchester Metropolitan University's first ever Urdu poetry musharrah. He's a former winner of the Northwest Poetry Slam, and he delivers talks across the UK. Over to you, Zahid.
To everybody, salam, peace with you all. It's great to see so many friends and new friends as well this evening. I'm not going to talk for very long because we're actually on the clock, and there are so many people who want to read tonight. And it's really, really exciting to see all these faces and these voices that are going to be sharing their work tonight. Poetry, bits of plays, fiction. It's going to be very, very intriguing, and hopefully this is a starter for 10 for people. Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Zahid. I write and I teach people how to write as well. The journey that we've been on with the Muslim Writers is probably very similar to the journey that Baji Kesra is with MACFEST, that we are all trying to bridge the divide. We're trying to show people the best of our cultures and our communities, and we're ultimately trying to show people that our stories are all the same. Our mission in life, our connections, our loves are all the same. And tonight we're going to hear some of the visions and the imaginations of people. And therefore, without much further ado, I'm going to hand over, if it's okay, Denise, to Nermeen, who's going to be introducing the individual writers as they come along.
Thank you so much, Zahid. I just wanted to take this opportunity, first of all, to say thank you so much to everyone at MACFEST and also, of course, Manchester Muslim Writers for creating this event and providing a platform for not only diversity to be the forefront of the creative world, but just also bringing so many different inclusivity aspects into this forum as well. I also just wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. We've got a lot of people here who are very excited to be sharing a lot of their own points of views on moving forward as well. I'd like to firstly introduce one of my personal favorites, Shahid Iqbal Khan. He is on the Writers Access group at BBC Writers Room for 2020 and 2021. He is an alumni as well to Granny Write to Play programme in 2018. He attends the invite-only writers group as well at the Royal Court Theatre, which is led in association with Defiantly Theatre 2021. His theatre credits also include The Smile of Despair, Stardust, and also the upcoming 10 Nights at the Bush Theatre in 2021, hopefully. He is writing a piece at the moment for Tara Arts for summer 2021, and as a new artistic director for Abdul Sheikh's inaugural season. Finally, as well, just by way of introduction, there's also quite a few of his audio credits as well, including The Return and that podcast series as well. I'll pass it over now to Shahid. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Naimeen. Thank you for that lovely introduction. Before I start, I must warn you, I'm having some technological problems. So because my laptop keeps going on mute. So I'll keep an eye out for that and then. All right. So take a breath. My name's Shahid Iqbal Khan. I'm primarily a playwright, but I think in the past year or so, the lockdown made me think of other forms. So I've been experimenting with audio and now TV as well with BBC Writers Room. So for tonight, I wanted to share an audio play, an upcoming audio play for Story Glass, who do podcast. To introduce the piece, it's called The Return, and it's about, I'm a deaf person, so it's about my last year working from home and how I perceive the world working from home. And I find it fascinating that I'm listening to the world through hearing aids, but I'm also listening to the world through this computer, this laptop. So actually I'm listening to the world like through two different equipment. So there's so many different layers it goes through before it gets to my eardrums. And so when I think about it, it kind of blows my mind. And then because of that, I've also experienced listening fatigue. So I think this past year has made me like rediscover a lot of things about myself and how I interpret the world and how I receive it differently in comparison to hearing people. So so this piece was inspired by that. So I'm just going to share the piece, my screen. Share. So I hope you can all see that. This piece is called The Return. So I've written it about a character called Adam. Adam is in bed. He has wrapped himself in the duvet, hiding from the world. Adam. Banish the world out of my life, out of my bedroom, / office, / canteen. It's not but an invader, an invasive intruder, / work, / life, / balance. Jounce it out of my duvet. My duvet is my home, my castle, my Rome, my superpower, my Berlin Wall. It's my cocoon, a soundproof husk, a territory, a no-go zone for bullshit and noise. So I've opened the piece with this, and then it carries on with other sound like silence, and then other sound that we are familiar with, such as the mobile phone notifications and Zoom meeting notifications. And then I kind of experiment with it with the sound that we might hear in another colleague's Zoom window. For instance, a dog barking, or the sound quality of somebody speaking, sounding like a record scratching, or the drilling sound in the background. Or the way they speak, if they speak too fast, they're speaking too fast and it's difficult to comprehend. The whistling of a hearing aid, for example. So I experiment with the sound and I carry on, and it's like an epic of, sorry, I'm lost my way. Stop share. I've interpreted the past year as like an epic. So I've gone from right at the very beginning to when we were working from home, to the summer when we kind of had a false hope about going out and eating out, and then crawling back in, until the present, where we're at the moment where we're thinking of returning to the workplace. So an epic in 5 minutes of 2020 to 21. So that's my piece. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Shahid. Really, really appreciate it. Next, I'd like to introduce Tuba Malik. Tuba is a children's social worker by day who indulges in poetry and poetic prose whenever she can. Tuba likes to write about her journeys, feelings, and finding life lessons in the seemingly mundane. Tuba, would you like to take it away? Thank you.
Writer. I'm not a professional writer, but I do love to write. And I like to write about things around me and to learn about the things around me and then put that into words. Something that I think a lot of us have been doing is going on walks. So this is a piece about Alexandra Park in Manchester, if you're familiar. So this is called the People's Park. Ordinary people. The clasping of coffee cups, tightly wrapped coats, the glimpse of light through clouds and ordinary people. Ordinary people and sprightly dogs that can muster a smile from anyone. Ordinary people attached to their bikes and headphones, walking in a world of their own, walking in their own extraordinarily ordinary worlds. Each mind spurs storms and contains calm waters. Each mind has been hurt. Each mind has depths of darkness and goodness that glows. The goodness glows as we innocently walk by one another, each ordinary person, taking another breath of wild life. There's silence and there's chatter. There's the clamour of little people whose language is laughter and squeals when the birds show their grand synchronized dance above us. Moments pass and skies start to darken, and each extraordinary person returns to their ordinary home. We share a little more than we know when we come to the People's Park, a moment where we bring our raw, ordinary selves and share it with those who pass. And whilst we continue to pass people with assigned distances and layers, let us also share that glimpse of goodness that glows. We pass people and people pass us. We continue to share our ordinary presence in the People's Park.
Thank you so much, Tuba. I really appreciate that as well. Absolutely beautiful. I'd next like to bring on Abdullah Curry. Born Christian, James Stone first embraced Islam at 21, now 50 and taken the name Abdullah Curry. In the first 10 years, he spent a lot of time traveling and calling other Muslims to come to the mosque. He then started to study Untitled, which is a tradition of medicine in the Muslim Ummah. He did a few years of distant learning and then an apprenticeship in Leicester. After graduating and practicing for many years, he started to study the body therapy and doing a lot of research into trying to articulate the essence of this tradition into the modern mind. He is particularly interested in the work of D.H. Lawrence and Muhammad Iqbal, two great minds of the Edwardian era. That was the end of one era and the birth of another, and he feels particularly relevant to creating a stepping stone between these two eras. He is also studying the work of Mullah Sadr and his relationship with the philosophy. When he is not studying, he occasionally writes poetry and also tries his hand at fiction writing, but this work, unfortunately, is slow in progress at the moment. He states that his three loves are his three R's: reciting, reading, and running.
So,
Abdullah Curry, are you able to? Oh. There we go. Hi.
Oh, I was worried there for a moment.
It's okay.
Can you see me and hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I'm actually really inexperienced on these sort of Zoom meetings, and this is the first one I've done, so excuse me. So I'd like to plug something, but I'm in a book. It's called The Kaleidoscope of Stories, Muslim Voices in Contemporary Poetry. It's just been published recently. So there's quite a few poems there's quite a few poets, Muslim poets from around the world, and I've got a couple in there. So I just like to, I think I'll just read one, maybe another, I don't know. So, O Allah, create such a vast plain. If this world were flung within, your searching would be in vain. Like in the haystack is lost a pin. Upon this plain let there run a herd of whitest deer, that number more than every sun in every single sphere. And every deer upon their routes, as they gallop along their way, do with their hoofs make their salute to Muhammad. Durood we say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And let above a murmuration of nightingales fly, so fast that such a vast numeration even counting angels couldn't try. For every atom create a bird that flies and sings his song, then a second, then a third. You couldn't imagine such a throng. And the only song that's ever sung in their sweet and tender voice is not the one to make their young, but for his best beloved choice. This deer's journey is surely felt, and this bird's song is surely heard by the hearts deep in which has dwelt the love of his preferred. Now with your mind and with your soul and with your whole body too, I want you to imagine a shoal of shining fish swim inside of you. In the silence of your inner ocean, they shine so beautifully, a glowing light in motion, sublime and gentle imagery. Millions as one, they go in synchronized perfection, and they're forming as they flow a word of adoration. See them scribing deep within, and then you will feel so glad when you see that as they swim, they are writing Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Would you like me to read another one?
Yes, please, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, yeah. So I've never read this at all to anybody, but it's a song. It should be sung, and I'll try to sing it, but I'm not a singer. So name yourself of the mountain, name yourself of the tor, name yourself of the valley where the springs do pour. But if you name yourself of Muhammad, abundance galore, he's the stream of all creation that flows through us all. Name yourself of the ocean, name yourself of the sea, name yourself of the rivers of antiquity. But if you name yourself of Muhammad, such felicity will flow from your heart, I surely guarantee. Name yourself of the heavens, name yourself of the moon, name yourself of the stars or the planets illume. But if you name yourself of Muhammad, you'll realize so soon that he's there for you to commune. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So I think that we have to celebrate the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and present him in a beautiful way. And yeah, that's my two poems for today. So thank you very much for hosting me. I hope it was. I hope connection was complete because it's been bickering all day. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Absolutely beautiful. Next, I'd like to pass it on to Bukhtavar Anwar. Bukhtiar is currently a program intern at Human Appeal. He grew up in Manchester, but is originally from Azad Kashmir. He has a BA in law and a master's in human rights law with political sciences. He is currently dedicating his time on researching the humanitarian issues we face today. He is currently working on a period piece and is spending a lot of his time researching Indian history in particular. The piece that he's performing today has been submitted to a poetry book competition for Human Appeal. The proceedings from this poetry book will help provide urgent life-saving medical care to pregnant women, new mothers and babies in a hospital in Syria. Bukhtiar also on occasion posts a lot of his poetry on his Instagram page as well. So at any point, if you would like to have a link to that, we'll put it in the chat. Bukhtiar, can I pass it over to yourself?
Can you guys hear me clearly?
Yes, perfect, thank you.
Okay, hi and salam everyone. I hope everyone's well. So thank you for that nice intro. I mean, it's very kind of you. And just a quick note, so this poem that I've submitted to this poetry competition, the theme around it was, the subject was about celebrating women. So the name of this poem is called Khatun, which means empress or queen. They were born in the city of sin and splendor, where they would mythologize extraordinary characters, regardless of the truth to nature. This was a land that was fertile for serendipitous encounters, yet everyone suffered from its prism of cultural inertia. Just as Gautam Buddha, through his trials, sought clarity, under the Ashwatha tree, she found her calling, putting her faith in clairvoyance and charity. She left her ancestral home behind. From border to border, she picked up flowers, whilst viewing the indelible scars left by the generations before. She discovered time's tyranny and the coalescence of its mirages. She entered the foreign fields, seeking to find an abode in this space, bringing a potpourri of kahaniya through the channels, yet clear demarcations were made in this place. They wanted her to crack like porcelain, but what could she do? With many ups and downs, she became a tailor, from a semi-skilled weaver to a Zardosi and Bursi embroiderer. Her craft encompassed the old city's opulence and debauchery, the Gwali singers and the Dawif entertainers, the bazaars and its street vendors. It was a node of its obsessive struggles for freedom. Time, regrettably, moves on forward. There is an air of mystery to this land. They build mahals in small stature that are incapable of withstanding the blows of nature. Late night debates between the chai connoisseurs and the zeal in which they puff from their chillum pipes. The dangers of charms have given her a steely resolve, while the shadows of the minaret remain within her heart. The zameen may not belong to her, but she still planted a teak tree, for this is now her space. I wanted to thank Manchester Muslim Writers and MACFEST for this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Book. Really, really appreciated that as well. Absolutely beautiful, and just the imagery was incredible. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Next, I'd like to be passing it over to Zahid Sen. Zahid is a chair of Manchester City of Literature and also one of the creators of Manchester Muslim Writers. He is a novelist, most notably The Curry Mile, screenwriter and writing mentor. In 2009, as stated previously, he founded the Manchester Muslim Writers group. In 2017, he helped to organize Manchester Metropolitan University's first ever Urdu poetry mushaira. He is a former winner of the Northwest Poetry Slam and delivers talks across the UK. Zahid, could I pass that over to yourself, please?
Hello again, everybody. Okay, I'm going to read a few things. So we're trying to give people a kind of a flavor of the different kinds of writing that we do. So I'm going to start with a story. So this is a story that some of you may already be very familiar with, but it's one of the favorite stories that I kind of tell my kids now and then. So here it is, kind of very short and sweet. Once upon a time, there was a rich merchant who lived in Arabia. He traded in a local market where he sold his wares brought by ship from all over the world. One day, a young man dashed into the market and ran up to the merchant who was busy with a customer and cried, "Bad news! Your ship laden with goods has been lost at sea." The rich man looked up and said, "Alhamdulillah, all praise be to God." He then turned back to his customer. The young man, confused, hurriedly departed. Now, a few days later, the youth returned to the market and shot straight to the rich man and cried, "Good news! Your ship has come into port." The rich merchant paused for a moment and said, "Alhamdulillah." The young man was surprised and asked, "But why? When we thought the ship was lost, you said Alhamdulillah, and now it has been found, you said Alhamdulillah." The merchant smiled and replied, "Everything belongs to God. Whether he gives something or takes it, I am content either way." And there's a quote from the Quran, from the chapter 56, which I found, which is, "Have you considered what you till," as in what you grow? "Is it you yourselves who make it grow, or is it we who make it grow?" And I think this is the kind of the kind of core belief and spirituality within Islam, is that we will try our best, but ultimately it's God who makes it happen. And this is that sense of space that we try and occupy in ourselves. I've got some non-fiction for you if you're interested. This is an extract from
always.
This is from an essay I wrote a few years ago called "Happiness is Halal." So if that title doesn't intrigue you, this is just an extract. A journey of 5 steps. The medieval Persian text by the Muslim scholar Al-Ghazali, The Alchemy of Happiness, Kimyai Shadat, explores the journey from the day-to-day concerns of man to the state of elevation inspired by God, and how this process reflects the journey of man's own happiness and spiritual development. The reference to alchemy is essentially the transformation from animal to angel. To understand how this creates the alchemical change in political economy, I shall focus on those aspects of the pillars of Islam that are most pertinent, beginning with zakah, or almsgiving. Islam seeks social justice and equality through the provision of the 3rd pillar of Islam, zakah, which means to purify or cleanse. It's obligatory for all those who are financially able, and it is a key component of Islam's welfare system, which redistributes wealth in order to achieve social justice. Saum, fasting. Each year, Muslims fast during the month of Ramadan, the 9th month in the Muslim lunar calendar. Ramadan is pivotal in the Islamic calendar as it creates a deep experiential bond between Muslims, and unsurprisingly, Muslims donate much wealth during this month. Often Muslims donate zakat during this month as well. Zakah's central role. Zakah, or almsgiving, is a critical step for ensuring wealth is spread equitably. Muslims believe it leads to many outcomes. It purifies the heart against greed and coveting the wealth of others. It instills brotherhood, sisterhood, leads towards the eradication of poverty and its related economical, social, and moral problems. Not all Muslims have to pay zakah. There is a minimum quantity of wealth an individual must possess. This is called a nisab. Whoever reaches nisab in excess of their essential needs and remains in possession of it for a year is liable to pay zakah. The nisab amount is equivalent to 85 grams of pure gold, and is currently, today, valued at £3,743 in the United Kingdom. So if you have wealth less than that, you'd actually don't pay zakah. I'll leave it at that for that extract from Happiness is Halal. And it's very much an essay around how do Muslims create a system of social justice through things like zakat and so on.
Absolutely, it's really thought-provoking. Thank you so much for that. Now we're actually lucky for, well, I feel very honoured to be able to reintroduce Tuba Malik, who has stated that she's got another poem for us to read through. Thank you so much for allowing us to have another reading from yourself, Duba.
Am I on mute?
No, yeah, I can hear you.
That's okay. This is another poem which I actually wrote in the park, which I wrote about before. Sounds like I'm a bit obsessed with this park. I might be. But this is a poem about something I learnt from a flower. I find that you can find lessons in anything. And I was looking at how a flower's petal has so much force, yet it's so fragile. So this is called A Force in Fragility. Translate the texture of a petal's precious touch, and let her lesson resonate as such. There is a force in my fragility, my heavy-footed friend. The colour in my skin ablazon, right until the end. For in my youth I'm pleased to please you, and your longing-seeking eyes, my blooming beauty gifted with loving graceful sighs. Even in my withered age, I stand tall with poise and power, whilst your years make your heart heavy, bitter, and sour. I crumble into fine powder, an ending you can trust. And with gratitude and grace, I float, fall, and kiss delighted dust.
Thank you so much for that. That was absolutely beautiful. That's actually, I think, the second time that I've heard it, and every single time I've heard it, it's always had such an amazing impact. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Liakad Ali. He is a multi-award-winning poet based in Manchester who writes in both Urdu and Punjabi. He was born in Faisalabad in Pakistan and moved to the UK in 1994 and has lived here ever since. His two collections of poetry have received rave reviews, and he has won a series of awards, including the Circle of Literary Friends Outstanding Poet Award, the Yorkshire Forum Award, and the prestigious Kavern-e-Abad as well. He is currently working on his third collection of poetry, and I'd just like to welcome Liakad to the floor now, please. Thank you.
Hello to everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
That's great. Hello to everyone, and it's a really honor for me to read my poetry. It's in Urdu. I hope you'll enjoy it. First, I like to recite a ghazal. आईना बनकर रहा हूँ पत्थरों के दरमियाँ, आईना बनकर रहा हूँ पत्थरों के दरमियाँ, साहिबे ईमान जैसे मैं कशों के दरमियाँ, और एक मुद्दत से है जिनकी मुंतज़िर ये मंजिलें, वो मुसाफिर है मुअल्लक रास्तों के दरमियाँ, इसलिए शायद न मेरी जीत मुमकिन हो सकी, इसलिए शायद न मेरी जीत मुमकिन हो सकी, एक तसलसल था जरूरी कोशिशों के दरमियाँ। अर्ज क्या है, जिनकी खुशबू से जमाना देर तक महका रहा, जिनकी खुशबू से जमाना देर तक महका रहा, फूल ऐसे बिखिले हैं मौसमों के दरमियाँ। मरने वाले हो सके तो तू भी आके देख ले, मरने वाले हो सके तो तू भी आके देख ले, जूतियों में दाल बटती वारसों के दरमियाँ। अर्ज क्या है, जो भी मुमकिन हो सका चारागरों ने कर लिया, जो भी मुमकिन हो सका चारागरों ने कर लिया, फासले बढ़ते गए फिर भी दिलों के दरमियाँ, और गो छुपाया लाख उसने फिर भी अफशा हो गया, गो छुपाया लाख उसने फिर भी अफशा हो गया, हिचकियां पिन्हा थी उसके कह कहूं के दरमियाँ। अर्ज क्या है, इस हवाले से ये दुनिया याद रखेगी मुझे, इस हवाले से ये दुनिया याद रखेगी मुझे, दोस्ती के बीज बोए दुश्मनों के दरमियाँ, और जिंदा रखा इस तरह खुद को बुरे हालात में, जिंदा रखा اس طرح خود کو برے حالات میں جیسے شمع ہو فیروزاں آندھیوں کے درمیاں. عرض کیا ہے میرے بارے میں ہی لکھا تھا کسی نقاد نے، میرے بارے میں ہی لکھا تھا کسی نقاد نے، خواب ایک بکھرا پڑا ہے حسرتوں کے درمیاں. اور اس سے بڑھ کر اور کیا اب عہد ہوگا حادثہ، اس سے بڑھ کر اور کیا اب عہد ہوگا حادثہ، دشمنی جاں بھی ہے میرے دوستوں کے درمیاں. I hope you enjoyed this ghazal. Now I like to represent another piece of poetry. Zahid asked me to say in Trannum, which I will do it, and I hope you'll like it. عشق بیماری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، عشق بیماری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، ضرب ایک کاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی. رات بھر کیوں جاگتا رہتا ہے کوئی کیا کہے، رات بھر کیوں جاگتا رہتا ہے کوئی کیا کہے، خوئے بیداری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، خوئے بیداری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی. توجہ چاہوں گا. کوئی ہیلا کوئی منتر اس سے بچنے کا نہیں، کوئی ہیلا کوئی منتر اس سے بچنے کا نہیں، یار کی یاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، یار کی یاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی. عرض کیا ہے کون ہے اس کے نشانے پر اسے پرواہ نہیں، کون ہے اس کے نشانے پر اسے پرواہ نہیں، آنکھ جو ماری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی. اور اب غزل کا مقطع پیش خدمت ہے. It's normally the last شعر which got the name of the poet as well. ایک ہوتا ہے ہزاروں میں تمہارے عہد سا، ایک ہوتا ہے ہزاروں میں تمہارے عہد سا، مہر سرکاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، مہر سرکاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، عشق بیماری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، ضرب ایک کاری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی، عشق بیماری ہے جس کو لگ گئی بس لگ گئی. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I think my mic was muted. I just wanted to say thank you so much. That was absolutely incredible, very, very heartwarming. And it reminded me personally of my childhood as well, just listening to the ghazals through with my family on long car rides and things like that. So I really do appreciate that. Thank you. That was actually the last performer that we have on place right now. Just following on before we finish up things, again, I just wanted to say thank you so much to MACFEST and Manchester Muslim Writers for creating this event. And for a lot of people who don't know, I myself am by day a lawyer, and whilst in my own career, I am quite committed to making sure that minorities are aware of their legal rights. However, through this event, whilst we were bringing it together, I've been able to understand the importance of our own rights over our own experiences, particularly as a minority. So often in situations like these, we are bombarded with stories of the Muslim being the villain or the oppressed woman, and flicking through the channels, rarely do I see an individual at peace, or or a troubled soul finding peace on a prayer mat, or the story of the extraordinary work done by so many Muslim women, from the Prophet's wife Khadija or Fatima al-Fira. Both of which, of course, are illustrations of the immense power and importance bestowed upon women. Now, again, rarely are Muslims asked to tell their own stories, despite the fact that we have lived through it. We have experienced it. We know the inside jokes that tie us all together as a community as well. And although our voices have been suppressed in the past, and we have been told time and time again that we are not the mainstream, it is events like these that illustrate how important it is for us to be able to hold our own pen and create our own folklore. And once again, I just wanted to thank MACFEST so much for creating this space. Additionally, in the light of the current pandemic, we can see comparisons of humanity going through unprecedented times previously. I know a lot of people get quite triggered when people say unprecedented times, but it's true, through each depression and revolution and renaissance, we as the human race do what we do best with time on our hands. We create. So with that, I would just like to call all our brothers and all of our sisters and all of our friends to create your own narrative and reclaim your own narrative, and most importantly, rewrite your own narrative. I'd like to pass it on now to Denise, and once again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Nermeen. What a wonderful hour together. What imagery and beauty in the stories, the poems, the readings and the song. Very thought-provoking, and to reference tuba with force and fragility. In English, I'm afraid I didn't understand Urdu, but I could feel the emotion in the words that were being spoken and sung there. And a lot of the words I've heard tonight will stay with me for some time for reflection. So I just wanted to say two things. First of all, to thank Piers for coming along, Zahid, Nermeen, Tuba, Akarim, Liakad, and the whole MACFEST team behind this. It's been marvelous. The second and last thing is to plug for MACFEST, an open mic event on Saturday at 2 p.m. where the public can read at that event. Do come along, whether you can make it or not. Please can you promote MACFEST on social media? That would be great. Thank you, and thank you to Kezra and the team. And that's it for this evening. Thank you.